The Phoenix Suns have recently been awarded the #1 pick in the upcoming 2018 NBA Draft. This is the first time in their 50-year franchise history that this has happened, as up to this point, the highest pick was a single #2 selection made way back in 1969. This was back when the #1 pick was decided via a coin flip between the two worst teams, and of course the Suns lost. They would end up picking Neil Walk, a 6'10" center who would go on to have a few very impressive seasons with the Suns, peaking in the 1973 season where he averaged a career-high 20 points and 12 rebounds per game. However, his flame was short-lived as he would be out of the league entirely by 1977. The #1 pick of the '69 draft was Lou Alcindor by the Bucks, later changing his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He would go on to play for 20 years and retire the leading scorer in NBA history and quickly entering the Hall of Fame. But that was a long time ago. I never saw those guys play, and neither did most of you. I began watching NBA basketball back in 2007 as a little kid, when 7 seconds or less Phoenix Suns basketball were taking the NBA by storm. They were dominant and won 61 games. This was the franchise I knew, a winning franchise. However, this would all come to an end in the 2010 conference finals to the hands of the LA Lakers. From this point on, the Suns were never the same. They have now played 8 consecutive seasons without appearing in the playoffs, this being second only to the Sacramento Kings. What happened to the Suns? How did everything go wrong? I decided to dive into this subject and analyze every season and all the decisions made which ruined this once feared franchise. Flashback to 2010. The Suns were great. Coach Alvin Gentry orchestrated the core of Amari Stoudemire and Steve Nash to a 54-win season, good enough for third in the Western Conference. Stoudemire just had a bounce-back season from a bizarre eye injury and played in all 82 games, averaging 23 points with nearly 9 rebounds a contest. He really was the model power forward of the 2000s NBA. Nash, though getting up there in years, still had a phenomenal season. At 35 years old, he averaged 16 points, 11 assists a game, while shooting his 4th career 50-40-90 season, a mark no one has ever touched as many times. Throw in a revitalized Grant Hill, high-flying Jason Richardson, emerging sharpshooters Channing Frye and Jared Dudley, and young backup guards Leandro Barbosa and Goran Dragic, the Suns had become a force to be reckoned with. But sadly, this was the end of an era. In June 2010, Amari Stoudemire got the snowball rolling as he would opt out of his contract with the Suns to sign a monster deal as a free agent with the New York Knicks. He would go on to have about 1.5 more good seasons before sadly fading away to injuries. Also during that offseason, former Sixth Man of the Year, Leandro Barbosa, would sign with the Toronto Raptors, where he would begin his journeyman career. Only 2 noteworthy exits, yet it was all the team needed to self-destruct. Stoudemire leaving the Suns left them with only a young Robin Lopez in the paint, forcing them to trade for the unproven young Polish big man from Orlando, Marcin Gortat, in December of 2010. The Suns lost their then best scorer Jason Richardson, disappointing newcomer Hedo Turkoglu, and the young prospect Earl Clark in this deal. Though Gortat would become a fan favorite, in fact my family nicknamed my little brother Munchkin Gortat when he was young, he was no Amari Stoudemire. Along with Gortat, still impressive Vince Carter also joined the Suns, giving a reason to be optimistic about the team's playoff chances. In February 2011, the Suns traded their heir to the Steve Nash throne, Goran Dragic, for Aaron Brooks. Brooks was not yet a full season removed from his breakout 19-point-per-game year as a 25-year-old with the Rockets. However, his play was much less than stellar with the Suns. Despite Steve Nash having yet another impressive season, averaging 14 points, 11 assists a game, whilst barely missing his 5th 50-40-90 season as he shot 49-39-91, the Suns would struggle through a 40-win season, finishing 10th in the playoff hunt. Despite this failure, the franchise was not about to give up. The next season had a rough start. The lockout greatly impacted every franchise as many key role players opted to sign overseas as a guaranteed way to make money. Of the Suns, this only included Aaron Brooks. I personally did not mind Brooks leaving as he was in my eyes a downgrade from Goran Dragic. Yes, Brooks had a monster year with the Rockets. Also yes, he was just a step above a bust with the Suns. During the 2012 season, the Suns made no trades. They played with what they had, and what they had was not very impressive. The Polish hammer, Marcin Gortat, played his best season in the NBA, as he averaged 15 points, 10 rebounds a game. Other than that, no one else thrived. Steve Nash, now 37, was showing signs of aging. He had slowed down to 12 points, 11 assists a game. Despite the low production, he still maintained his trademark efficiency as he shot 53, 39, 89, again nearly missing a 50, 40, 90 mark. The noteworthy addition to the team, potential Hall of Famer Michael Redd, played his first and only season away from the Bucks franchise as he averaged 8 points per game on some poor shooting, but that was it. If the leading scorer of a team averages only 15 points a game, it is hard to have much success. The Suns still fought hard and finished the season right at 500 with a 33-33 record, but missed the playoffs, again finishing 10th. It was time to make changes. No matter how hard it hurt, it was time to trade Steve Nash and rebuild. In July 2012, the Suns completed a sign and trade for the face of their franchise to one of their biggest rivals, the team which eliminated them from the Western Conference Finals 2 years prior, the LA Lakers. In return, they received 4 future draft picks. They would then sign veteran traditional four Luis Scola, former fan favorite Goran Dragic, and the man, the myth, the legend, Michael Beasley. From a die-hard fan's point of view, I was torn by these moves. On one hand, I hated to see Steve Nash leave. He was who I watched for years as a little kid and who I personally tried to emulate on the court. But I was also ecstatic to see Dragic return to the team, along with being happy to see Scola and Beasley don the purple and orange. Despite the early optimism up to this point, this season was the worst I'd ever seen the Suns play. They had no identity, no rhythm, and the lineup was never consistent. They fired Alvin Gentry for Lindsey Hunter midway through the year, as if the coaching was the issue, and just looked awful. Remember how I said it was hard to win with a 15-point per game guy leading your team? Well, this year the Suns' leading guy was Goran Dragic at 14 points per game. Finishing with 25 wins and dead last in the West, their second worst season in franchise history, beating out only the inaugural team in 1969, the Suns were now officially in rebuild mode. Seemingly anyone on the team minus possibly Dragic was fair game in a deal, as what they had was obviously not working. During the summer of 2013, the Suns rebranded themselves for the first time in my years as a fan. They changed their logo, jerseys, and court design. Gone were the days of Planet Orange, onto the days of black-sleeved and edgy Suns basketball. This was a huge cultural shift. The organization heads wanted to forget about the past and start a new era. A new coach was brought in Jeff Hornacek, and only 5 players returned from last year's team: Goran Dragic, PJ Tucker, Markieff and Marcus Morris, and Channing Frye. The team's big additions were the number 5 overall pick Alex Len, who floundered hard on the court, journeyman high-flying fan favorite Gerald Green, who had his best year with the Suns, and not well-known backup point guard Eric Bledsoe, who became an NBA player with the Suns. This team shocked the league. The Suns opted to play both their point guards in a combo guard type style where either could bring the ball up the court or be the team's primary scorer. The Suns looked great, they were fun to watch, and the team finally was tasting success again. They would win 48 games, the most since their 2010 season. However, the Western Conference was absolutely brutal this year. The Suns finished 9th, missing out on the playoffs. To put it into perspective, if the Suns were to be inserted into the East with their record, which mind you contained games against mostly other tough West teams, they would have finished in a tie for 4th place, which is home court advantage. The difference between home court advantage and missing the playoffs entirely was decided by geographical location. It was a heartbreak. However, now the team was serious. This was the Phoenix Suns, a fast and high-scoring team which brought fans to their feet, just like the old days. Except now, the team was full of youth. Sadly, these good times did not last long. In 2015, the Suns season was a season unlike any other I had ever seen. In total, 23 players would step on the court wearing the purple and orange, which must be some sort of record. These players included guys like long-lost brothers Zoran Dragic and Seth Curry, very creative names there, dads. Players you've never heard of including Shavlik Randolph, Jarrell McNeil, AJ Price, and Earl Barron. Has-beens, such as Marcus Thornton and Miles Plumlee, and young prospects such as Tyler Ennis and Archie Goodwin. That right there is enough to almost field an entire team. How did this happen? Well, a mixture of poor managerial decisions and heartbreak. The Suns did something which shocked many in that offseason. They were able to add Isaiah Thomas, a player who had just averaged 20 points and 6 assists a game with the Kings a year prior, for cheap. This made their point guard monster into a three-headed beast. On NBA 2K, this works. Players' and critics' opinions do not matter. It is all about winning. But in the real world, everyone has something to say. None of the three liked sharing the court because all three by this time in their career were young, talented, and looking to get paid. The only way to do that was to do something impressive on the court. Despite these three playing well, each had their numbers go down, and young lottery pick Markieff Morris, adding 15 points a night, also was taking away from them. The team blew up. Out of nowhere on deadline day, the Suns traded both Dragic and Thomas away in order to make Eric Bledsoe the face of the franchise. As a Suns fan, this ticked me off. Dragic was the fan favorite. He had the longest tenure on the team. He was putting up 16 a game, shooting 50% from the field, coming off of a year where he put up 20 a game, and he was the only remaining player from the last playoff team. Thomas was also beloved by fans. He was new, but everyone loved him. He was only a positive influence to the team. Coming off the bench, playing 9 minutes less per game than the season prior, he still managed to average 15 a game. In return, the Suns received a replacement to the point guard attack in Brandon Knight, but his tenure has been shaky to say the least. Eric Bledsoe, meanwhile, got on everyone's nerves. You see, Bledsoe has a really bad attitude on the court. He only tries when it matters, and he hangs his head far too often. Second only to the entire LA Clippers team, he is the rudest player to referees. It blew my mind how many things he would do to disrespect officials. Small things which you won't see people talk about, rather you have to watch the games closely to notice. Things like he won't pick the ball up for officials, he'll let it stand there at his feet and wait till someone walks over and picks it up. Or just small things like that don't really equate to anything, but you notice, and it speaks a lot on a person's character. Long story short, the Suns blew up their team, lost a lot of games, and nobody except the Morris twins had fun. The team finished with 39 wins still, which was a significant drop from the year prior, but it wasn't horrible. However, they placed 10th in the West, missing the playoffs again. For a fun fact, if you take last year's Suns record and place it into this season, they would have made the playoffs. Oh well. Going back to what I just said about the Morris twins having fun, that didn't last long, as in July 2015, Marcus Morris was sent to the Detroit Pistons along with a couple of no-impact players for a single second-round pick. Now, this was odd. It is hard to reason that the worth of Marcus Morris, who had just had his best season averaging 10 points a game, was equal to a single second-round pick, aka chump change. This ticked off Markieff, who rightfully felt betrayed. But the Suns were developing the reputation of a team who does not hesitate to make rash decisions and break hearts. More evidence being the signing of a 33-year-old Tyson Chandler to a 4-year, $52 million deal, which he is in no way deserving of. The only good addition to the franchise is the savior of Devin Booker. I will admit something. It was odd to cheer for Booker early on because for the first time in my life, I was older than the player which I admired. It felt weird. Anyways, the 2016 season was absolutely awful. Markieff was a baby and complained constantly until he was mercifully traded to the Wizards. The Suns would go on to win only 23 games, their second worst all-time season, losing out to the team that made them want to forget in 2013. But don't worry, Eric Bledsoe got his. He averaged 20 points, 6 assists a game on some decent shooting. This was probably the best Bledsoe we ever saw next to the year with Dragic. Brandon Knight also contributed 19 points a game, the best Brandon Knight we ever saw. Devin Booker put up 13 a game in his rookie year, which was the best rookie we've ever seen on the Suns team in a while. So 3 players had good years. It didn't equate to anything. The Suns were bad. The Suns, however, did get the 4th pick in the upcoming NBA draft, so something good came out of it. In this draft, the Suns had a tough choice. The top prospects available were Ben Simmons, Brandon Ingram, and Jaylen Brown. But of course, they were all picked 1, 2, 3. So the fourth pick could have gone to a number of guys. The Suns, however, opted to draft a raw prospect from Croatia, Dragan Bender. This brings me to the topic of another possible future video, one about drafting guys because they look like they will be good rather than drafting guys who are actually, good. But that is another video for another day. Anyways, the Suns actually landed 2 top picks as they traded 3 first-round picks for Marquise Chris, who had been previously selected by the Sacramento Kings. I could not wrap my head around this decision. Sure, Bender was a possible Porzingis, because he's tall, skinny, white guy from Europe who shoots threes, but why trade for Chris? The 3 players given up by the Suns had never played an NBA game, so it wasn't like they were losing much, but one of these guys, Bogdan Bogdanovic, pretty sure we just gave up because he kept refusing to come over, and I think we just gave up on him coming over from Serbia. Bogdanovic did eventually come over, and in 2018 he played pretty dang well for the Kings, but back to the Suns. Chris and Bender are both lottery pick power forwards. They both play the same position. Why hire 2 people to do the same job when only one is going to get the full-time slot? I'll tell you why. Because the Suns have no loyalty. In the NBA, there is no loyalty. If they draft 2 guys who play the same position, then they have twice the chance of finding a guy who's good at that position. So it's up to those 2 to battle it out and decide who's going to be in the NBA with the Suns longer. The season would have its ups and downs, mostly downs. PJ Tucker was finally traded. A D-leaguer named Derrick Jones Jr. participated in the NBA Slam Dunk competition. Leandro Barbosa came back to the Suns for the 3rd time. Eric Bledsoe got his at any and all costs. Brandon Knight sucked coming off the bench. Chris and Bender were bad. And Devin Booker scored 70 points in a single game. Yes, 70. It was a fun game to watch. The team finished with 24 wins, placing them dead last in the West again, and marked their 3rd worst season in franchise history. The Suns had now fallen, attempted to get back up, lost their footing, and fell off a cliff. The only way left to go must be up, right? Despite having the 2nd best chance at the number 1 pick in the 2017 NBA draft, the Suns once again fell to the 4th pick. Here, they made a good choice and picked Josh Jackson, who is a small forward who can already play ball and still has a ton of potential. Of course, the Suns' 2nd or 3rd best player, TJ Warren, a lottery pick from way back in 2014 who up to this point hadn't done anything noteworthy, was now emerging as one of the team's most reliable players, forcing Jackson to be relegated to a reserve role most of the year. This season got off to the worst start in NBA history by any team ever. Yes, ever. On opening night, the Suns played the Portland Trail Blazers and lost 124-76, a 48-point opening night blowout on their home court, largest in franchise history on opening day. The next game was much closer as they battled the bad LA Lakers team, but they still lost 132-130. This was the only game Bledsoe tried in, by the way. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. They then played a fumbling Clippers team and received a blowout loss 130-88, a 42-point loss. Through 3 games, the Suns were 0-3, averaged giving up 129 points per contest, and averaged losing by 24 a game. This apparently upset the wannabe all-star Eric Bledsoe so much that he voiced his frustration in the most unprofessional manner possible through Twitter. As a result, he was expelled from the team, which is something I didn't even know you could do. Although it did also happen to Joakim Noah from the New York Knicks the same season, which is odd because I had never seen that before. He would later be traded to the Bucks for Greg Monroe, who would later be sent away for absolutely nothing, so the Suns received nothing from Bledsoe. See, it is not all just franchises. Players have no loyalty either. The poor start also led to the firing of temporary head coach Earl Watson, who I haven't talked much about, but just know he was horrible. In fact, of all Suns coaches in history who have coached at least 82 games, Watson is the 2nd worst all-time with a 33-85 record. Woo, Earl Watson. He once played in the NBA. That means he must be good, right? The Suns players and managers were bad this season. Really bad. The team was led by future All-Star Devin Booker, who at only 21 years of age managed to put up 22 points a game with a career-high shooting numbers. TJ Warren, the guy who gets about zero time on any NBA talk show, actually had a splendid season early on, which was slowed down by injuries, but he finished with 19 points per game on 49% shooting. Josh Jackson improved throughout most of the season, finishing with 13 points a night. Alex Len actually proved he belonged in the NBA. It just took 5 years. Bender and Chris each seemed to stagnate or regress, depending on how you look at it. Tyson Chandler kept getting paid to play about half the games for only 25 minutes a game. Dudley received $10 million to do nothing except foul Ricky Rubio one time. And the Suns were bad. They were really, really bad. They finished with 21 wins and in dead last in the entire league again. This was their second worst record all time. They have taken the second worst franchise record like 3 times over these years, so it's pretty bad, although that 1969 season must have been horrible. Anyways, they lost too many games, and it was a waste of a year for many guys, both players and coaches. The only winner in all of this was general manager Ryan McDonough, if that's how you say his name. Although, I don't think he won. He probably lost a lot of money these past few years, and he definitely lost a lot of respect. And I mean, okay, you get the #1 pick, Don McDonough. You hear that? So that is the history behind this #1 selection coming up this summer. The Suns have struggled for 8 years, lost fans, lost money, and lost respect. But now, either DeAndre Ayton or Luka Doncic is going to save the day. One of these two, along with Booker, is supposed to save the team. Devin Booker swore this was the last time he is going to miss the playoffs, and I hope he is right. But I am used to the letdown that comes with being a Suns fan. Quick little jump in right here. I didn't type this out. I just read about it yesterday. Apparently, the Suns manager, Ryan McDonough, is open to trading the #1 pick because of course he is. Because of course he is. If we have Kawhi Leonard with all of our bad guys who won 21 games, we're instantly going to win 54 games. Of course, yes, because he's stupid. I don't understand. Anyways, I really hope we actually draft Ayton or Doncic, and it's tough being a Suns fan. Here's the 2019.